Coach, obviously, Garrett has come a long way in a short time. Where do you feel like he's made the most gains over the course of the season?
Yeah, I think, for any quarterback, you gain experience with repetitions, and you try to simulate the best you can in practice, but there's nothing like game reps. I see him recognizing things. I see his timing improve. I see his decision-making improve a little bit each week.
I know you guys spend some time on the phone in between series. How does he kind of absorb that in-game, correction?
Yeah, no, he does a good job. He's able to provide good information as far as what he's seeing and match that up to what we're seeing, and the communication is excellent.
What's your history of working with freshman quarterbacks? Have you been down that road very much?
Yeah, well, you typically have freshmen every year. I think all the way back in 2007, we had a first-year player at Allegheny College. So I've worked with freshman quarterbacks before.
How strange has this quarterback situation been, dating all the way back to the spring? Keaton Lucky was going to be the guy. Tommy transfers in, and now you're starting true freshman.
Yeah, it's been it's been quite the story, but continue to work to get each guy better and play the guy that gives us the best chance to win.
Even with Schrader's promotion here, is there still a role for Tommy as this season goes into this final month?
Yeah, Tommy's role is to prepare as if he's the starter, so that if his number's called, he's ready to go.
When you made that transition, how did you handle it, and how did he take it?
Who?
Nick, to Tommy, pardon me.
Tommy handled it in a first-class way. If there's a word, there's several words I'd use to describe Tommy, but classy would be at the top of my list. So I told him, and just like we said back in fall camp when we named Tommy the starter, I told the whole room that it's our job, myself included, that we support whoever the starter is in any way possible. So when the decision was made to go with Garrett, I said the same thing to the room. Our job is to support Garrett, and everybody's on board with that.
Garrett made a comment to us after the A&M game, and Coach Moore had kind of reinforced it. He said one of the changes at halftime was to change where his eyes were going, maybe cut down to half the field he was looking at. What thinking went into that, and what made it more productive for him in the second half?
Yeah, I've watched so much Arkansas film at this point this week that the A&M game feels like a while ago. But I would say with any quarterback, whether it's the scheme that cuts your eyes down, or you just are very exact about where your eyes are when they're supposed to be there, it makes playing the position easier. I tell those guys there's nothing easy about playing this position, but if you can have your eyes in the right spot at the right time, it becomes easier. You're not guessing.
Is it tough to get a kid like that who's so aggressive and wants to make plays to tell him to narrow down what he's looking at instead of looking for everything out there?
Yeah, I don't know necessarily his personality has anything to do with it. I think it's more just experience, right? Older guys, they have more tunnel vision. Younger guys try to see everything. So it just comes with reps and experience.
Speaking of their Arkansas film, what kind of impresses you about them?
Yeah, Coach Chavis has done this at a high level for a long time. They're a good defense. I think defensive line is improved from a year ago. The linebacker, number 8, is a guy that's rightfully so an all-SEC performer. And I've been really impressed with what I've seen on the back end from those guys. I think their coaching staff's doing a great job. We're looking forward to going to compete with them.
When you worked with the freshman quarterback before, do you take anything from that experience to what you're doing with Garrett now?
Absolutely. I think all good coaches learn from the past, yeah.
Garrett, something coaches said about him often, one of his strengths is his ability to improvise. How do you walk that fine line between keeping a guy able to improvise but still staying within the scheme?
Yeah, I think as a coach, your job is to teach the scheme, and I think you got to have a great communication with the guy, with your quarterback, because nobody has a better view out there than him. I joke with him all the time. I'm the expert. I get to sit there with a rewind button and tell you what you should have seen. Those guys are doing it in real time, and they got the best view. So I think as long as there's communication and there can be a why behind the decision, that's how you kind of balance that fine line. But you're absolutely right. The line is fine, but with a player like Garrett, or honestly any of our quarterbacks, they have athletic ability. Sometimes they have that instinct, that gut, and you never want to coach that out of a player.
Some of his passes still seem to float a little bit, but how much of that is just the fact that he fell so far behind in the weightlifting in spring and coming out of high school, and he's still not physically what he's going to be?
Yeah, I'm unaware of how he fell behind in the spring, but he's a young guy. He'll continue to get bigger and stronger and continue to work on mechanics, and becoming more efficient.
We hadn't seen KT or Jalen in the game yet. Just how are they progressing at practice? What's their development
Yeah,
like?
those guys are doing a good job. Everybody has a role within the organization, and they're fulfilling their role to the best of their abilities.
You mentioned balance. Garrett said after the A&M game that you guys kind of simplified things a little bit at halftime. That helped him get in a rhythm. What's kind of the balance for you guys in opening up the playbook with a guy who's still really kind of learning it and grasping it?
I think you're always striving to find the plays that they have banked reps on. You know what I mean? You go back to, let's go back to that fall camp install menu and say, hey, you know what? He's gotten a lot of banked reps at X play. And, there were a couple of plays like that we talked about as coaches at halftime and just said, based on what the defense is giving, what are some of those banked reps that Garrett has? And we were able to get those on the call sheet, and he did some good things.
One thing Coach Moore has said a lot of stuff about quarterbacks. He doesn't like to rotate them, but he doesn't mind playing two at a time on the same play. Haven't seen that yet with Tommy this past couple of games. Still in the game plan? Is that one of those things that just the right opportunity hasn't presented itself?
Yeah, it's something that we evaluate scheme every week. We have, kind of our base. This is what we're going to do, and then week to week, there's usually wrinkles that we add in based on what we see from the opponent's defense, and just haven't brought that one up yet.
For all the frustrations that come with it and all the pressures this next month is going to bring, is it still fun coaching a true freshman like Garrett that, talking to guys like Tebow and Rogers said, he just has that it to him and doesn't really let things get to him?
Yeah, I'm blessed to be a football coach in the SEC. Coming to work every day is fun. I get to work with some great guys, including Garrett, as a freshman, and yeah, it's absolutely fun. I love what I do.
Garrett said yesterday you gave them kind of I know it's still super early in the process, but gave you guys kind of a spiel about the NCAA stuff. Is that?
It wasn't so much a spiel as just informing them of what occurred yesterday.
For sure.
Speaking of what occurred early in the season, he had some issues with his helmet coming off, and he said you gave him a warning about the beard. How have you guys been able to reconcile that and allow him to keep his facial hair?
I mean, the beard has its own coffee at this point, right? So we got to kind of keep it around.
Maybe